Din, 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 din. Din, 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 din. Good evening and welcome along to the forum eventually. Nearly at 11 o'clock an hour later, so we'll just call it that we're in Central European time. And why are we in Central European time? Because, of course, France have been eliminated from the Euros. There was a penalty shootout. Kylian Mbappe, Liverpool's new record signing as a centre-forward, is Gick. And that's basically been it. So, well, welcome along. Welcome along. This is the forum. Down below me here is Peter Smith. Over this way here is Ray Dicko Dickinson, England's greatest ever fan. And beside me, this way, of course, is Gavin Doyle in the lovely surrounds of his non-green screen. It's a real studio. He can touch those pictures that are in the back of they're real. He didn't make it up. He's a real boy. He's a real boy, just like Pinocchio wasn't. But so anyway, look, welcome along to the show. It's been a long evening so far. We were hoping to be on at 10, but of course the drama that unfolded in front of our televisions meant that even some of us who will be Luddites when it comes to international football generally have been bought into this wonderful, exciting international football tournament. With that, we have 4 topics tonight. First topic we're going to cover off is England. Can they win the Euros? And we want to make that an all-encompassing topic to talk about. After that, then we're going to talk about the Dutch and their perennial failures at major tournaments. Pete wants to talk to them. And we can talk about the French and we can talk about anyone else that wants to come along because there's a lot of common themes that arise out of it as well. Following that, then we'll talk about Fool's Gold. I'll bring that up a bit later and explain a bit later to you what that means. And then finally, we're going to talk about managers on the run. Managers who just don't want to work anymore, right?
They're on the run.
Don't want to work for Everton or Tottenham Hotspur, no matter what you're prepared to pay them.
There's literally managers now. Do you ever see the thing on Channel 4 called Hunted, where 12 randomers are thrown out of a van on Albert Dock, and you have to leave all of England to run around and not get caught by the lads? That's literally all the managers in the world now. They're literally being thrown out of a van and Bill Kenroy is chasing them around the place and they're doing their best to stay away from them. It's mental. It's literally manager fugitives. That's what they are.
But your man O'Sheary doesn't exist for a start, right? He's actually, that's Nick Barmby or somebody involved with Liverpool. He's not real. It's like it's John Henry's like.
No, do you know what I've noticed? Do you know what I've noticed? If Everton are about to make a bad decision, right, they blame it on his mate Usmanov. It's fucking brilliant. They go, well, if Usmanov is behind this, you know what I mean? And they're like, he doesn't even own the club. He doesn't have nothing to do with it. But
well, Gav, keep this. We'll get into that a bit later as we go on because we do want to talk about the zeitgeist, the thing that's at the moment, the thing that's filling everyone's boots high has been 2 sensational games of football over the course of the day. And sensational is probably a lie, but 2 great entertaining games of football which involve lots of really bad football, lots of really bad defending and lots of goals. And who doesn't like goals in a football match when it comes to tournaments? Because normally you get loads of goals in the group stage and then it just dries up in the knockout stage because teams are a bit worried to go and attack. This has been a tonic for the goal fest. And on that basis, and Ray, I'll let you lead into it because you've seen nearly all the competitors at this stage, right? And you just ignore Sweden because you always beat Sweden, always beat Sweden. So Sweden aren't even a real team for you to consider, right? Right, on this basis and from what you've seen over the weekend, are England going to win the European World Cup?
I think they're a very live chance of winning it. Yeah, I really do. Getting a little bit excited now. I mean, today's games, they were unreal. Like it's like it's kind of like heavyweight boxers like slugging it out, and obviously now we're going to see 2 teams play each other in the likes of Spain and Switzerland for 30 minutes in the legs. For me, England, if England are going to win this tournament, it's going to be on the basis of maintaining that solid back line and not conceding goals. We've seen it in previous tournaments where the likes of Greece have absolutely snooze fested the way to winning a tournament, and I think that's kind of almost like England's best hope. If I'm sitting down at this time tomorrow and England have bored the way to a 1-0 win against Germany, then I really will start getting excited about winning it because, let all the other teams on the other side of the draw sort of put up these entertaining games, because at the end of the day, only one team will come out of that side of the draw. And with the Dutch going out last night, that for me, has kind of opened up a massive avenue. I mean, England looked a gift horse in the mouth last time around. England looked a gift horse in the mouth last time around in the World Cup when the same thing happens. And
I have to read this out for people that will listen later. Paul Gormley says, Jesus Christ, he must be one of the very few Scouse England fans. My stomach is turning. Can I defend him a little bit, because he's fucking winding everyone up?
No, but just before you defend him, Gav, I just want to say, Paul, if Ray is turning your stomach, you should see Jamie talk about England in real life. It's just it's horrific stuff. But anyway, go on, Gav. Defend him.
He's just fucking winding everyone up. Like, you know, he's calling himself a top white now instead of a top red. No, he's doing all sorts of stuff. And it's great.
For between 18 and 22 days, because that's generally how long England are in tournaments.
Yeah.
I like to, you know, put on a different personality and try and do my best impersonation of an England fan that I can, and then as soon as they're dumped out the tournament, the very next day, I'm completely over it 100%. But no, I mean, all joking aside, I think England would be kicking themselves, because, you know, this is basically turned into a home tournament for England. I mean, if you look at all these teams traveling around the whole of Europe, going to Eastern Europe, coming back, stops in between, going up to Scandinavia, England have got every game at home, apart from what would be a quarter-final in Rome. I mean, they'd be looking a gift horse in the mouth if they can't convert this into at least getting to the final.
Rome, it all falls shy for England and Rome. But Pete, I haven't brought you in yet, right? You're not a top white, obviously, because like you're not part of the English supporters club, right? But
never.
But I want to move away from England, because personally I hate England, and I've been accused of being an English basher, so I won't go deeper into politics tonight. But I want to ask you, right? How happy were you at seeing that Pogba prick getting knocked out of the Euros after his little dance on the pitch?
Let's call a spade a spade. Pogba's been fantastic in this tournament, and he turns up for France. He just turns up. He does what he's supposed to do. But you scored a third goal. The last thing you want to do is dance in the corner of the pitch. You pump your fist and you tell the lads, it is not over. We keep going. We keep going. All you're doing there is goading the opposition, and if anybody has any bollocks about them in the opposing journey, as Granit Xhaka did tonight, you're saying, look at this fool dancing around. Let's get one back and rattle them little bit. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but this tournament has lacked in a lot of things. You talked about defensiveness, but leadership. I mean, I expect from Pogba with the tournament that he's had to say, no dancing. This is a tight game. We're 3-1 up. There's a few minutes to go. Come on, lads. We go. And then I expect Deschamps to say, right, I'm going to take off someone. I'm going to sit someone in front of that 3 or the 4, and I'm going to just lock this game down. The standard of coaching and management in this tournament has been absolutely abysmal, but the lack of leadership has been on the pitch has been just a bit. And Pogba, to be honest with you, as good as he's been, that was his moment to say, no, I'm a different man. We're 3-1 up. I don't underestimate. I don't fucking dance around like an idiot. You're just inviting people into the game. So he deserved that. Graham Souness is smoking a big Cuban right now.
But, okay, look, we all know Pogba goes over the top. I think his whole personality's got is about being over the top and trying to make out that he's the greatest showman and the greatest player in the world, because he obviously aspires to being that. There's one thing about doing the dancing and stuff. There's another about performing on the pitch. And on that, Mbappe, when we went into the tournament, Grizz has been that sort of waxing lyrical about where this fella is, and that he's on the cusp of being the man who takes over from the Ronaldo and the Messi crowns as both of those guys move on to the twilight of their careers. Mbappe really didn't turn up in this tournament outside of a flash in the very first game against Germany where he cut inside.
Do you know what he's shown? Do you know what he's shown tonight, Phil, Mbappe, more than, I'm glad you brought it up. He's shown that he needs, people talk about he doesn't need the stepping stone to get to the highest level. He doesn't need to go to the museum club, to go to Real Madrid, to go whoever's going to manage that circus next year. He needs a manager who's going to actually bring out the best in him. And I think we all know the name I'm going to say. He needs I see him running around and doing things in areas of the field that he doesn't need to do it. Do you know, he's fantastic. He does things that in the previous game Morata couldn't do, for example. But then there's other things that he needs. I mean, he lets a ball come across onto his left side that he should have just opened up his right boot and put in the bottom corner. He needs a Klopp. If that young lad doesn't realise now that he's not the finished article, tonight might be the making of that lad, because he's thinking, will I go to Real Madrid? Will I go and be a superstar? No. He still has a lot of developing to do. There's a lot of hype around him, and I'm a huge fan, but he needs a Klopp.
Look, I feel from missing the only penalty missed in a shoot, it was always tough for the guy, and it was a great save by Sommer. He goes the right way, and it's at a tough height, but it was a savable height, and that's the way it always is.
But no one wants to talk England. No one wants to. Everyone wants to. You know.
Well, I want to run through it, right, because I don't want to be here all night, to be perfectly honest. So I could talk about England all day, but actually, of all the teams, England is the only team that's made me turn off the television because it's not been interesting. Well, them, Finland, Hungary, the Ukraine, most of those games with teams that are completely irrelevant and don't really aren't entertaining to watch. Sort of when they've been on, you just nah. The Tour de France is on, or something else is on. Wimbledon start, Formula 1 is on. Paw Patrol is on, that type of stuff. It's like
tomorrow, 5 o'clock.
You do, but I guess look, the overreaction is going to be on. Mbappe's price has gone down, and he's sullied his bib and all. I think the kid is a smashing player. He's a world class talent. He probably needs the right guidance, but he also needs to step up in competition. Like we're talking about, he's playing for PSG, and the only real competition or competitive level he's playing at is in the Champions League. The one thing you can say about the way Ronaldo and Messi and even Suarez owned their skills by continuing taking a step up in league. So Suarez comes to us in the Prem, steps his game up to the next level. He goes from us to Barcelona, and look, we all know what Suarez has done when he goes to Barcelona, wins Champions Leagues, wins league titles. Barcelona say, "No, you're too old and you're shit." Goes off to Atletico Madrid and sticks 2 fingers up at them and wins the league. Like that's what the true elite players do in terms of what they can do with their career. And Mbappe is definitely one. If he steps up and has that competition on a week-to-week basis, either it makes him or it breaks him, and that's the only way we're going to find out how good this fella actually is.
I don't think. There's some comments coming in around the price being affected. I don't think that affects the price one jot.
No, but it should affect his thinking, Ray. It should affect the people that look after Kylian Mbappe, his father and his brothers, whatever. It should affect their thinking. Tonight's a reality check for him. Forget about the penalty. Anybody can miss a penalty. But in the dynamics of the game, if you thought you were ready, I mean, the Swiss, they're not exactly world beaters, but they're tight, organised, and they're a test there, something to break down. He has a lot of developing to do. His thinking should be changing. Okay,
Pete, I want to move on. I don't want to move on the subject, and Gav, I want to come back to this. Looking at the other games, so we saw Spain earlier on have a 3-1 lead, and they capitulated, and they end up winning in extra time. But that's a 3-1 lead. We see in that game a 3-1 lead. They capitulate. Like the weak defenses, it's the knockout phases. The weak defenses are starting to get shown up. The only team that's shown a really strong defense or a stout defense so far has been Italy. So can we see any other team at this moment in time outside of the 2 second round games to go tomorrow based on what we've seen? Have you seen anyone yet that you can see can penetrate and break down this Italian side?
I haven't seen a lot of the Euros, I'm being honest. I told people last week I watched literally none of the first 2 rounds of games. None of them. I seen Italy against Austria the other night. It was a great game. And Italy, they do look strong. They look just so solid, and they have a couple of players that can hurt you as well. That's a great mix to have. England have the same. England do have the same. They have they've won both. They haven't conceded a goal. They're strong at the back. I don't know how much they've been tested. I'm going to be honest with you. A stronger test will come. I'm going to be honest with you. When you look at that side of the draw, like I have it in front of me here, and you look at it and you're saying to yourself, right, if England were to go through against Germany, and that's a big if, right? I think people are underrating Germany massively. I think if Germany are notorious for this, they'll start a tournament and they go, they're not up to much. And next of all, they click in the second round and the quarters, and they might dog a semi-final, and then they're in the final, and you know how Germany get on. But Ukraine and Sweden on that side of the draw, and it's an open side of the draw. The other side is a nightmare. Belgium, Italy, Switzerland and Spain. It could have been France and Spain. But when you look at England, if they can stay solid, they have a great chance because they've loads of talent going forward. But I think they might need something bad to happen to them to just jolt Southgate. He seems to me to be a manager that's just stuck in his way here. and he's just going to try, muddle through with the same players every time. I can't believe you haven't seen Sancho. I can't believe you haven't seen more Grealish. And it's a bit strange when you look at it with regards to England that he hasn't mixed it up a bit more, and then the whole Mason Mount and Chilwell stuff hasn't helped. But he might need someone to get a knock, and he has to, break glass a little bit.
He needs Harry Kane to get a knock.
Well, whoever it might be,
something different.
It could be, and it could be just a spark to me, because to me, the vibe I'm getting off Southgate already is a massive nervousness. And you usually see, when you see nervous managers, you see them sticking with what they think they know. And I think there's players in that team. I'm not asking them all to start, but I think if you look at them and you say he could come on, Grealish should be seen more. Sancho, how highly rated he is. He's on the verge of a move to Manchester United, and it's just Saka's a fucking great player. But it's just one of those where it might need someone to get a knock or something to go against England, where Southgate has to show a little bit of balls, and I think that might hurt him, because I could envision a game against Germany where he sticks with it and just gets sucker punched near the end, and he's no reaction.
That's why they won't win it. That's why they won't win it, Gav. I mean, to be honest with you, go way back. England's whole problem is, it's indicated, if you will. You look at Jamie Vardy. There's no way Jamie Vardy shouldn't be in that squad. In fact, to be honest, if you're picking on what the actual team needs, he should be in the team. Harry Kane is knackered. He's his own worst enemy. He's that player that wants to be on everything. And now you look at him, he just runs around. He looks like a big lumbering fella. If you didn't watch the Premiership week in, week out, and you were to watch England, you go, why the fuck is that big fella with the number 10 on his back playing for that country? I don't understand. When Jamie Vardy packed it in for a reason, because he knew that Gareth Southgate, despite what he was capable of doing, Jamie Vardy can stretch teams. It's like looking at Ian Rush. Jamie Vardy should be playing in that team. It's a joke. It's ridiculous. For me, that's why England, they don't have that. He's stuck in a way that it's almost like the players pick the team, and he just doesn't want to be an unpopular man. He doesn't want to try anything. But for me, Jamie Vardy says everything about why England won't win anything. You want someone to stretch someone, you want to spring, you want to get someone on the end of things. He's your man. He's not even on the plane.
They've a great chance, though. They do have a great chance. I genuinely believe that. I think if they get by Germany, I think they have a great chance.
We watched. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, there's all the talk about England, and I suppose it's valid, because Ray's point is that the only game that they don't play at home is the quarterfinals, potentially, if they can get past Germany. Although the likelihood is they'll shift the final unless Boris and Handycock is gone now. So whoever's in will be told to just make a decision, and AstraZeneca will come up with a make you up stats that it's all right for everyone to go into a stadium now. It's grand, but I think they'll move the final to somewhere where they can get a full crowd in, because definitely I know the lads are saying it makes a big difference to the atmosphere at the match.
But I don't know if they can move it that late. I don't know whether.
I think they can, Gav. I think it's within the remit of UEFA to have the final.
Unless, but I don't know. I would suggest there's a I don't know, statute of limitations is probably the wrong word to use it. But there's probably a certain amount of notice, and Wembley will be hired by UEFA to host that tournament.
Some of the lads in the comments are all gone about Vardy. Vardy retired for a reason, though. People in the comments, he retired for a reason because of this stupid inflexibility that does England in.
I don't care about Vardy, right?
I know. I'm just saying.
I don't care about Vardy, because again, it's like I don't care, right? We wanted to discuss a point there, and you went off on a Vardy rant. I don't care about Vardy. Vardy
want to win tournaments to bring our best players.
He has a head like a weasel, right? So it's like, I'm not interested in weasels. If I wanted weasels, I'd look at the wind and the willows.
The guy's class, and we've a polar bear with the number 10.
We haven't talked about Belgium. You're still talking about Vardy. We haven't talked about Belgium. And because it's going to segue into your fucking topic, so shut up and just let me talk, right? So this is bleeding ruining me buzz here. Anyway,
American football.
Shut up, will you? I'm the host. You want to host? You get your own show, right? Anyway, right. What I want to ask you about, we haven't talked about Belgium, and it's interesting because Belgium have been perennial dark horses for 2 or 3 tournaments now because of the squad that they have. They're into the next round of the competition. They looked fairly competent in terms of winning the game they have. Ray, for you, looking at that side of the draw with France now gone and Spain being a horrible average side that's in there, right? Like, does Belgium have a realistic chance now of at least getting to the semis, if not further?
Well, I think the winner of Belgium-Italy will get to the final. So I think it really comes down to that for them. This is that was a stiff enough test. Portugal gave it a good go, particularly towards the end there. I thought it wouldn't have been, unfair for that game to go to extra time. They hit the post there towards the end. I think, Belgium have got, they've got the star talent, haven't they? They've got Kevin De Bruyne, who just, I don't know. I know he went off and not sure what his status is for the next game. Lukaku, I think, his hold-up play and bringing others in is phenomenal. And he always looks like he's potentially going to go through and score himself. So they're a little bit suspect at the back. You've got the likes of Vertonghen, Vermaelen. Don't know whether that's going to stand up against Italy and potentially against Spain if they're in a semi-final. But no, the winner of Belgium versus Italy is the finalist for me from that side of the draw.
Is the common thread here, lads, in all this? And Pete, I'll let you. This will take us into your topic on the Dutch. But is the common thread here the vast array of average to shit managers? Like, you look at Belgium and Roberto Martinez, a failed English Premier League manager at the likes of Wigan, Everton, no mark clubs, right? Gets the Belgium gig. You look at the French gig. Deschamps was probably at his peak of his powers maybe 10 years ago. He wins the World Cup. He did a great job in terms of winning the World Cup. But again, you look at this and you're thinking to yourself, well, who are the standout managers? Who, if you look at all these big name countries, who are the standout managers? Where the attraction of international football is no longer seen as the pinnacle of the game. So the best managers are no longer in it. So you look at the England job, and this is in terms of what we're looking at. We have a no mark. We have a guy whose career is based on being relegated and making teams worse season upon season. And since going into the England job, he started off well and has made the English team worse in terms of their ability to play and whatever's there. And Pete, I know this is your topic in terms of the Dutch, but like, we're looking at a Dutch side that didn't even have the best Dutch squad available to them. So I'll let you take it away in terms of where you want to go with it. But
no, I think you're right, Phil, to be honest with you. And you hit the nail on the head when you talk about international football just not being the pinnacle of the game anymore. And I know you have a decent view on the way it should be, and I wouldn't disagree. Scrap the qualifiers and just go for the tournament and make it attractive again. But for me, I mean, I look at Ronald de Boer, for example, and my topic's Holland. And I mean, listen, anybody can have a player sent off, but effectively they played 5 at the back, had a man sent off, and he didn't change it. He invited the Czechs onto him, which is the last thing you want to do at international level. And the reason I highlight that, to be honest, is not because of the game yesterday, because it's an indication of the lack of. I mean, I look at the Netherlands in particular. We all like to watch them down the years. They had Rinus Michels all those years ago, but nobody can remember what club that he ever managed. The Dutch had a system whereby, their great master or their great teacher would ascend straight to the international team, regardless of his club pedigree. I look at Ruud Gullit, for example. I think the Dutch have missed a trick with Ruud. I don't think Ruud Gullit was ever made to manage a club. I think a guy at that level would go to a club and think those 6 or 7 players or 10 players aren't good enough, weren't at my level, and just ignore them. So he automatically became a poor club manager. He probably should have went into international management, because certainly in Rinus Michels' last 6 or 7 years in charge, for all intents and purposes, Ruud Gullit was picking the team anyway. So for me, I think the Dutch, they've got this fantastic structure, but it's not attractive for the top coach or the top managers to be there, or maybe they're just not there. So you look at the team. I mean, I'm very surprised looking at a Dutch side without an out-and-out centre forward. They've got all these kind of wingers who like to run around and interchange positions, but don't really do much. We watched Daly Malen, or whatever his name is, Malen, run through a couple of times yesterday, and free as. I mean, he tried to dance around the keeper. I'm used to watching Dutch sides with a centre forward or two centre forwards who are not necessarily the best players you have, but if they're 1-on-1 with a goalkeeper, it's 1-0, it's 2-0. Then for me, just looking at when the licht went off, I mean, you're looking at the board saying, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to push the side forward? Are you going to make a couple of changes? Are you going to try to, go all in and kind of go for broke and make the Czechs think? He didn't. He just invited them on, which kind of suggests another thing as well. I'm surprised at the lack of leadership on the park. Listen, it's not a slight on Gini Wijnaldum. Gini Wijnaldum is the player that he is. Perhaps wouldn't be my captain at an international level. Maybe it's his record that gets him there, or it's the kind of energy. But a guy that's posting Spotify song lists, for me, I don't want to take. I mean, that's modern football, but he's not my international captain. So I think the game in general, certainly in this tournament, is lacking leaders. The only real leaders, and you hit it on the head earlier on. Italy have 7 or 8 leaders, to be quite honest with you. They're missing a trick if they don't win this tournament. But the Netherlands, for me, I think it's just they have a fundamental problem with everything to do with what they are. They don't have an identity. They don't. I mean, the one thing that you could always rely on Holland, all the way back to Rinus Michels, even Van Gaal, was the fact that they always had a plan. If something went wrong, you would see on the pitch the switch went on, and they would overload you. They would crowd you out. Yesterday, they just sat off and allowed the Czechs to come onto them. It was strange. So the Netherlands, for me, to be honest with you,
right. I want, and I'll ask you this in a wider context of some of the bigger names that have gone out of the tournament in what's here, right? Because Portugal are gone, France are gone, that's there. But look, is Pete being a bit unfair here? Because Holland lose their manager, Koeman goes and takes the Barcelona job, right? So that Dutch side was being set up to be managed by Ronald Koeman if the Euros take place in 2020. If they take place in 2020, Virgil van Dijk is captain that side, right? We can't sit here now and be agnostic and say, if Van Dijk had been in their team last year, we would have finished second in the league. And then look at that Dutch team, a Van Dijk-less team in terms of what's there for Holland, and say, Holland are shy. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got two huge things happen between what should have happened at Euro 2020 and what does happen, which is Euro 2021. We keep getting confused here in terms of this is Euro 2021, it's not Euro 2020. And 2 of their key members, because that Holland team was flying into that Euro 2020 tournament. Yeah, it was one of the... Go on. No, that's what...
Some of the qualification games, purely because of Van Dijk and Wijnaldum, and taking an interest from that perspective. And it's true to say that Van Dijk was as immense playing for Holland as he was playing for Liverpool through that stretch and that run of form that he was on. A Van Dijk who hadn't been out for a year with a catastrophic injury, and playing his normal, in the regular rhythm of playing football in a normal fashion, would have definitely made a big difference to them, and maybe it would have changed the outcome. But this is what happens in tournaments. You get adversity, you get some key players, some star players who either don't make it or just about make it. I mean, we touched on De Bruyne. I mean, he wasn't available initially. He comes on, he makes an impact. Sounds like he's going to be out for the next game. Like the top teams will have to find a way, and the top managers will have to find a way as well. And just on the managers, you talk about some of the teams that have gone out and whatnot. There was a comment there which come up, naming some of the managers that have just give this a swerve. It was Kazakhstan, I think it was, who come up with this, mentioning Jose, Pep, Klopp, Ancelotti, Wenger, Fergie. No interest in international football, and this is the reality unfortunately for the countries who could potentially get a really top manager to manage them at international level. The club game has just got too much about it, whether it be money, whether it be the dynamic, whether it be the the chasing the Champions League, the domestic trophies. It just doesn't provide enough. It's almost like, if they haven't got that true passion sits behind it for the I don't mean it in a negative way, but if they haven't really got that true passion for their country in the way of managing, an international level, then it's for them, it probably just feels like winning an FA Cup or whatever. It just hasn't got the same level of, kind of desire and prestige. It's taken a big prestigious club and winning a Champions League, and you always end up with almost these kind of second tier managers as a result, and they are absolutely flawed in so many ways, and they're often managers who are absolutely at the pinnacle of a playing career at international football. Often managers who had 100 caps and all this sort of stuff, but it just doesn't translate.
Ray, were you not shocked yesterday when the Dutch won a player down at the lack of contingency that De Boer had? I mean, for a fella who's played 110 or 115 times for his country, to not actually see that, by trying to keep that five at the back, you're just inviting the Czechs onto you, who are going to still be in order. Instead of taking that step forward and saying, let's at least try and play okay, if we get caught out by Sheik, but it won't be because we're camped in front of our own 18. Yeah, I've never seen that like that in my life.
We're talking about
going down to 10 men. It was simple as that.
Sorry, right? I'm just saying, but you're talking about a manager who hasn't lasted more than 3 months in his last 2 jobs.
Well, that's untrue. Yeah. He's had a job at Atlanta United in America.
No, I'm talking about real football.
No, well, that's a job. That's a job. But the problem with Holland, the problem with Holland is that, and Pete said something earlier. He said they don't have an identity. They absolutely have an identity, and that's the biggest issue. I get Ronald Koeman leaves and goes to Barcelona, and I get that Virgil van Dijk is injured, but they went back to type. They reverted to type, and they went and looked and went and got De Boer. Now, I know what Ray is saying with regards to, big managers that swerve this sort of thing, but it's hard to get them out of these jobs when they're really, really at the pinnacle, like you say. But surely, I know it was thrown at them a little bit with Koeman, but surely, there's better out there than De Boer. His record is 3 months at Inter Milan, 3 months at Crystal Palace, and 2 years in America with Atlanta United, and then I think he wins 2 kind of second tier cups. Doesn't start the season well, and mutual consent, and he's gone. I'm sorry, but the Holland national side, why? And they keep doing it. They keep going back to Dutch players that played well for them, and they keep throwing them in there. We've seen it over and over and over again. Now, people will slag off Martinez. He won a cup at Wigan, I think. But having said that, Belgium went away from what they would usually do, and they went, oh yeah, you know what, we'll go for Martinez. You know what I mean? They done something different. Mm-hmm. England have tried it and failed because usually the media just pile in on any manager they can get hold of, and just, until they suffocate every single bit of hope and desire out of them. But with Holland, they just keep going about this thing where I guarantee when the ball leaves, they'll find another fella that was really Edgar Davids will be the next manager of Holland. No, that's what they're going to do. Gav, but that's what I'm saying to you. They keep this is just repeating the same thing over and over again, and then wondering. And what happens is, Phil, and I'll let you know, but what happens is that what all we see from Dutch squads over the last, I would say, 20 years, right, is it's a Dutch way, and that they're fighting amongst themselves, and and the Dutch always at that, and there's no one to stop it because the fellas in charge was involved in it probably 4 years earlier or 8 years earlier, and he's sitting there going, oh well, that's what can I do? I used to be part of that 8 years ago. Nobody's coming in and taking the Dutch, who are fabulous footballers, and saying, listen, fuck the Dutch way because it doesn't work anymore, and this is what we're going to do. And if anyone asks the bollocks, you're out, and they won't. They just keep repeating the same process, and that's their identity, and that's their issue.
Just on the Dutch, the bit that confused me, and because I go back to international football is like what it used to be back in the 80s, because it is a team picked of national team players, so it's basically meant to be the best players that represent you. They pick Frank de Boer, who's been basically out of the European scene, picking players and all that type of stuff that's there. Like, the obvious candidate for me was Philip Cocu. He wins 3 Eredivisie titles back to back from 2014 to 2018. That's recent success. The players that are coming through into this tournament and going to play in this tournament are going to have played in Holland in around that period when he's there, right? He wins the cup in Holland in 2011. I think he had 8 years or something like that at PSV, and then he went out to Fenerbahce, and then he went off, and it didn't work out from at Derby in England, right? Because he's there before Frank Lampard comes in as manager at Derby, right? So to me, that's who they should have gone for. When you have to go from Koeman, who obviously had established and had a core players, and they all love Koeman, and Koeman seems to come across as a really affable manager and somebody that players like to play for, right? Look, there wasn't any bad stories coming out.
They shouldn't hire another Dutch fella. They shouldn't.
But the Gav, a bit like the Italians. The Italians will never hire. The Italians will never hire a non-Italian manager, right? The Germans are very unlikely to ever hire a non-German coach because they have fellas who get to the top of the game and are good enough to do it. I just come back to the Frank de Boer was an interesting one because his time was maybe he had an Ajax team even further back than Kaku, right, and hasn't done anything since then. And if you have to pick a guy who knows the players that he's going to take to a tournament, taking a manager that has recent experience around those players, around those group of players, and knows who are the best players to take with him, that to me was the logic. And I'd be amazed if he's not the front runner or one of the front runners for the Dutch job after this.
Absolutely.
I think you're right, Phil, because they look in the Netherlands, they look at it as an education. It's almost like they expect you to fail early doors, learn from your failures and move. I think it's quite healthy. The Americans are quite similar, but I always felt that they missed a trick with Ruud Gullit. To be honest,
I think your larger point is correct. Football is international. International federations haven't moved away from the national identity of a game. Right?
Like, I wouldn't put it past Holland, right, to put Kaku in charge, right, right now. And after the 2024 World Cup, Jurgen Klopp turned around and says, I wouldn't mind to go with international management. And Holland turned around and give it to fucking Edgar Davids. Because that's what they do. Do you know what I'm saying? There's no sense in what they do. And people are surprised then when, the Dutch, they didn't really have it tactically. This is the ball we're talking about. I don't care how good a footballer he was. We've seen so many good footballers never make it as managers. Ever. And they never will because they don't have all the attributes you need to be a manager. Not only tactically, but man management and stuff like that. Roy Keane being an ultimate example of it. But when you see what goes on with the Dutch, I'd be amazed. And look, I think it's a good topic to talk about because, there's loads of reasons why it happens with regards to the Dutch. But I still at times go, we'll be doing this in 2 years. We'll be doing this in 2 years or another week. Well, not in 2 years because it's on in Christmas dinner. Or watching
and again,
we're
talking about Mancini in Italy, right? If you look at Mancini's career, it's sort of dwindled since he was at Manchester City back in 11-12, right? And I suppose occasionally teams step out. So, right, and I'll throw this one out because you're a big fan of him. But you look at when international teams do successfully look outside their nation. So take Switzerland, for example. Look what Roy Hodgson achieved with Switzerland, right? As an example. And as much as we laugh at Hodgson being Liverpool manager and all, he had huge success with the Swiss national team in terms of what he helped them achieve. And you look tonight, Vladimir Pekovic, who's a Bosnian citizen, who is managing that Swiss national team and getting that Swiss team to it. Bringing in new ideas. Is that not the source of regeneration, right?
It is. I mean, obviously England went there, didn't they, with Sven and Capello before they kind of reverted back to English managers, and I think it's be a while now. I think England are back in that actual kind of mindset now of probably only appointing English managers for the foreseeable future, sort of thing. I just think with the really sort of big nations, the Spain, the France, the Germany, the Italy, the top nations, that they're stuck in that way where the manager is a big part of linking the identity to the overall squad, and I think they very much stay within those boundaries, and and then when you get to the less traditional top powers, but who can still punch way above the weight, or in Belgium case have got a golden generation. They're the nations who are willing maybe to to look a little bit further afield, to look into ways that they can outperform what their expectations are at tournaments.
It's a good point.
Well, just to wrap on the topic itself, who is the outstanding manager in this tournament?
I think the Czech manager, absolutely excellent.
What's his name? Mate?
Good question. What is his name? What is his name? I know more about his work than I know his name, but I think he's been excellent. And they're compact. They've got a decent centre forward, and they're organised, and now they're growing in confidence.
And the Swiss and the Croatian managers have had, massive credit again, because this isn't the first tournament. This isn't a flash in the pan. Like, they've performed. They consistently get out of. Not only do they consistently qualify, but they consistently get out the groups. In Croatia's case, they got to a final at the World Cup. In Switzerland's case, they're now in a quarter final of a European Championships. Some of these lesser known lights. And you see them tournament after tournament, and they're doing something right because they stick around for years.
I think you have to give a shout to the Danish manager.
Yeah.
After everything that's gone on with Christian Eriksen and losing that opening game, and then kind of revitalising the team, and not only the manager but the players have been brilliant as well. And I think everyone wants them to do well. But that manager, must have felt so fucking low after that first game, and what happens to one, probably his top player, and then they're struggling in the group, and they manage to get out, and you see them now, and they have a chance. But I think the Swiss manager has to be given a shout. You see what he done tonight. He gets out with the group, and there he is now after getting past France, and again he has Spain, and like Spain scored 5 today, but I'd fancy any fucking team against Spain, because Luis Enrique is the manager. Another absolute cabbage, but another fella that's literally just picking players, because I think he's picking players sometimes and just not even that they're good enough for the team, just kind of he gets on with, rather
I think he wants to be seen as another manager. Gav wants to be seen to be clever. I mean, I don't understand, for example, Phil, this is your department, but I don't understand choosing Simon over what's available. Yeah, sometimes I think you can try to be too clever. I don't get it. I don't understand not when you're trying to break teams down, not bringing Thiago into it at all. I think he's almost saying, I don't need him, I don't want him, and it's going to cost him at some stage. And I think there's a couple of, like Jordi Alba, I think there's a couple of players there you kind of go. Morata is the best example. I don't understand how that fella gets a game at international level at all.
This is the common thread for me in this whole tournament, is that despite all the goals that's gone in, shite strikers. Fellas who are meant to be amazing, like Benzema does his job tonight for France and they're out, right? Outside of that, Germany don't have a striker. Muller's not scoring the goals, there's nobody there. Harry Kane has yet to have a shot on target for England. Spain don't have a striker. Holland didn't have a striker. Portugal are relying on a 104-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Even look, Severovic is turns up and scores 2 goals. He could end up top scorer in the tournament at this rate. Like I think as Shaqiri got 3, when Yaldum had 2 goals. Like you look at this, although there's been loads of goals, the true naturally good striker. So I'm looking at Federico Chiesa and saying he just reminds me the way he's come through with the Italian. It's the very Italian Paolo Rossi story, isn't it? Where he doesn't even get to start in the first couple of matches, scores a couple of goals towards the back end of the group stages. Gets his game in the knockout round, the first knockout round, again scores, and then you see him, all of a sudden he becomes a fixture in the team and becomes the solution to score goals.
Scalacci again, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't even think. I think
Rossi's the original.
Yeah, I know Rossi's the original, but I think Scalacci's ma wrote a letter to the Italian FA asking could he be in the squad in 1990. That little fucker scored against us, but it's like that.
Sorry, Lukaku has been the only one that's been consistent right the way through.
He's been really good.
A proper centre forward. But you think about it, you're not going to think about a striker. Steve Nicol there, I'm a better striker than Morata. To be fair, Morata is the best worst striker ever. For a fella who can't score goals, the amount of moves and the amount of millions that's been spent on the moves going around,
180 million.
He should be on 5. He should be on 5 goals. He should be on 5 goals right now. If Divock Origi was Spanish, he'd be playing up front in that Spanish team and knocking in about at least 5 goals for Spain at this stage.
He's got no pace. His movement. People talk about his movement. Yeah, it's funny. His finishing is so bad. And I always say to people that praise his movement, if his movement was so good, his body shape would be. He'd be in a better position to finish the chances that he always gets. His body. He's always approaching the ball at a terrible. He's very overrated. I don't get it. I think it's a hipster choice with him.
But again, I think this is where we have to be careful because people judge players on tournaments. You like this, Gav? Watch this.
Oh yeah,
people,
I love that.
People judge players on tournaments, and in reality, like I only really started
for years. It's not good.
No, but starting to pay real attention in the knockout phases because I think the group stages can be blow hot and cold. If you think the 2006 World Cup, loads of goals in the group stages, everyone thought this was going to be the best tournament ever, and then it was shite in the knockout phases, right? Even though it was Germany and it was great, this one is being mad from the off. There's being good, bad, indifferent, and I think it's just defenses are terrible, and it's like there's just madness that's going on.
Goals all over the shop.
But you're watching Portugal, and the amount of tweets that are going out saying Renato Sanchez. Perfect fit for Liverpool. You're looking at Malin comes on for Holland and it's perfect fit for Liverpool. The fella who turns up and scores a goal from a wing, perfect fit from Liverpool. What we have to be careful about, like tournaments football throws out a vast amount of fool's gold. It's the gold rush of the 1800s. Everyone running to San Francisco to find the magical gold mines that don't exist, right? And if like people need to think back to Liverpool's history, we've been burnt with fool's gold before. Like and United have been burnt. Like I think of Poborski going to United back in after the 94. Was it the 94? 96 European Euro 96. Yeah, we were lucky. We got Berger
off Dortmund.
Yeah, who was a player. Right, who was a player in terms of what was there. But Ray, I'm going to go to you first on this because, and it is my top. My thing is that you cannot judge players and you cannot judge top players on tournament football because one of the greatest examples of it was Lucas Podolski and Davor Suker. Right, Lucas Podolski made a whole career out of scoring goals at tournaments and getting a move off the back of the tournament, and then not scoring for 2 years, and then turning up at another tournament and scoring a right load of goals, and then getting a move again. So, Ray, what's your biggest fear on the fool's gold coming out of this, given the amount of names that are being thrown around at the moment?
I don't think we'll get sucked into that. I think Klopp's too clever for that as well. Like I don't think, and the way that we target and sort of trail, players for sort of months, years, whatever. I just don't think we'll fall into that trap. What I'd actually like to see is us kind of benefit from the other side of it now. So there's been a few comments, and it's been crossing my mind over the last few days. Comments around Shaqiri. He's in the shop window now. I mean, he scored goals already in the tournament. Yeah, he only lasts the usual 70 minutes or whatever, and he gets substituted. But he put an absolute lovely ball in there. I think there was an offside called for it, but he put a lovely ball in there that should have been absolutely buried at one stage. He's got those little flashes of magic. It would have been quite funny had had we not got ourselves in that situation around Wijnaldum's contract running out. Because he made a massive impact. If we were in a position where we could have commanded big money for Wijnaldum going out the door. So I'm hoping that we get a bit of cash for Shaqiri off the back of this, and people forget his kind of track record and take a punt on him, and we make a bit of cash.
Sorry, Ray, will you just answer Mohamed Joggi's comment there with the words Nicolas Pepe, and we'll just forget what he just said about Renato Sanchez and another fool's goal player. I mean, what it's like fellas play championship manager for 5 minutes and they think they have the answers.
No, do you know something?
I'm not even going there.
He's very upset, Pete, tonight, isn't he?
Nicolas I'll just say that.
It's very late. Very late, Gav. It's very late.
Very late.
Yeah.
Very late.
Honestly, Mohammed, I agree with you, Mohammed, but no.
So can I just shout? Somebody shouted, "Who did Miroslav Klose didn't get a move?" Klose moved to Bayern Munich after the 2006 World Cup, right? Okay, and he moved to Lazio after the 2010 World Cup. From 2007 to 2011, he plays less than 100 games for Bayern Munich and scores only 20 goals, right? And then he somehow managed to get a multi-million-pound move to Lazio on the back of the 2010 World Cup. Don't be giving me crap that Klose didn't get it. Klose wouldn't have got a game for Liverpool's 4th team, right? If he was playing in England, like you're talking about Sean Dundee levels in between the World Cups. It's like it's bizarre.
Great for Germany.
I have to be honest with you. Looking at it from a Liverpool point of view, if I think Ray is right, the level we're at, we don't jump into transfers anymore. They're scouted, they're researched, and they're probably done 12 to 18 months out. They watch someone, and if it comes up a bit earlier, they might do it. But usually they watch someone for a year. It's kind of well known that Liverpool will track someone for at least a year before making the decision and going in on them. So I'll be honest with you, like I was having to think about this today over, I told Sean he was over a smoke and a Mindero, but I was having to think about this, and I think Liverpool's business is done. And I don't mean that Canate and that's it. I think whoever Liverpool are getting is well up down the road. I think it's a case of they might be in the Euros or they could be on their summer holidays, whatever it might be. But I think Liverpool will bring 2 more in. And I think whatever happens in this Euros, I don't think it'll make any effect on Liverpool's transfer business. Having said that, if Liverpool are 5th or 6th in the league and are 7th and looking to break into the top 4, that's when you start to worry, because you go, oh, is he worth the risk? And like you say, Phil, you fool's gold and you go in and you jump in and you try sign somebody. We've seen loads of teams do it. We've seen, usually it's Middlesbrough and they sign some fella that scored 80 goals in Holland, and he turns up and he's fucking Melogian. And there was another fella, there was another Brazilian lad he signed Middlesbrough going back.
Hamilton is name.
No, not Hamilton Rickard. No, there was another fella. I can't think of his name.
Joel Campbell.
Somebody in the chat will do it. But that's where you'd start to worry because you're at a certain level. That is the risk worth it, and you might go at it, and he might do something great for you. But I think with Liverpool, I think whatever's going to happen, I think is already in place to happen. Where it might benefit is that teams that look to break into certain areas, i.e. Lazio in Italy, looking to break.
Alfonso Alves. Somebody got Paul Young.
Alfonso Alves. That's what it is. That's what it was.
Paul Young.
But when you look at like Lazio supposedly looking at Shaqiri, that's Lazio looking to break into the next level in Italy and thinking, oh, Shaqiri, yeah, all right, he might only last 70 minutes, but he could do it for us, and that's where we'll feel the benefit of it. But you're not going to have. I can't see a top 3 or 4 team in England going for somebody off the back of this tournament. I don't think it happens anymore. Not for the big sides. I think our sides that are up in the top echelons of the league. When it comes to 6, 7, 8, I think it can.
Okay, I'll flip it then, because we've got loads of Fool's Goal in a book and that are playing in the European tournaments, right? So I'm going to ask you, Gav, right? Mm-hmm. In my head, I can see us, if we want to get 15 to 20 million for Shaqiri, I know where he needs. I know who's going to give us that money, right? I'm going now Shaqiri to AC Milan, and he will have an absolute. If your man goes there, what's the name? Suso can go to AC Milan and become a living legend, right? Imagine what Shaqiri could do for Milan as a number 10, just sitting off the front 2, like in classic Italian style, pinging in free kicks left, right, and centre. I'm telling you, he's
linked heavily with Lazio, around 14 million quid. That's what he's linked at the moment. Yeah, he's linked with Lazio.
AC Milan. Give Silvio a buzz. I've sorted this for them.
He's not old enough. He's not old enough to play for AC Milan. He's only 29.
But I think that's the sort of clubs you'll look at. Sevilla was the one that was linked with Shaqiri last year, and we wanted too much money. But you look at the level of Sevilla, and you look at Sevilla were a bit better, I think, this season. They were up right near the top in Spain, weren't they, for the last 3 or 4 games, am I right? They had a chance at the title with 4 or 5 games to go, I think. But that's the sort of level. And then you look at Lazio, that's another team that are just on the brink of breaking into the next tier of what they are in the league. And I think that's where it'll work for us. The same with Origi. I think you'd be looking at a team, genuinely, I think you'd be looking at a team mid-Premier League that would say, you know what, we could get him working, that could push us up. The likes of a Southampton or somebody like that. I think that's what'll happen with the likes of him. It'll work to our advantage. Forget even if they're not in tournaments, because Origi's not. But I think it works for us when teams are looking to take a risk and just go on to the next level, and we have enough players there, I think, that people will be interested in.
Hopefully.
Ray, if you wanted to buy a bit of Fool's Gold in this tournament, who's the man that you'd go after?
Oh, Jesus. No idea. Absolutely.
The fella off Denmark, Damsgaard, is that his name?
That's your Fool's Gold. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a few people have mentioned him, that he's deadly. Yeah, never heard of him.
The fella who popped up with a couple of goals for Holland, was it Dumfries?
No, Headless Chicken.
Yeah.
Headless chicken. Honestly, just
wouldn't he?
I think a classic piece of fool's gold, something that will be on the level of Salif Joe type of fool's gold for us, right? I think Chris Isaac, the Swedish centre forward, that's the one. He sort of fits. There's a hint of Michael Edwards, you know.
Oh, he's getting people getting a bit. Yeah, I mean, I've told a bit of a few flashes, decent flashes.
Patrick Schick as well. He can score from the halfway line, and you've got
but that's because the Scottish fucking goalkeeper went to get smokes. So I mean, it wasn't like
yesterday, didn't he?
You know,
he could be another one of the West Ham.
He did. He scored another one yesterday. Yeah,
I tell you, the biggest piece of fool's goal is Kingsley Coman, and we're being linked with him. He reminds me of just a slightly faster Jermaine Pennant. To be honest with you, I don't see it at all. I don't see any variation.
But this is why over my mint arrow earlier I came to this conclusion, because I literally opened Twitter probably 4 or 5 times between getting up this morning and probably lunchtime, and every time I opened it there was a different name. Liverpool, it was Kingsley Coman, it was, the names were coming out of everywhere, and I just kind of went, oh, hold on, this is every hour now. And do you know what it is? I think it's just journalists and other people throwing stuff out there, not hoping to get it right. I think they're hoping I think someone that actually probably knows what's going on and has a better idea will retaliate to some of this and go, well, no, that's not true, because they're looking at this person and they're just trying to get information out. Don't be worrying about all these sort of players. I would say that most of the names you see linked with Liverpool having a hope of signing for them, and the 2 players that we bring in probably you won't even hear them.
Can I just remind everyone in the comments, if you start throwing Italian names in, you're wasting your time. There's not a single Italian player that normally turns out good in English football. Like, you're literally wasting your time, right? Like, there's the list of Italian clusterfucks is about 18 times longer than the list of Italian successes in the English league. So just park that one. Look at the Locatellis and the Spinazzolas and the Chiesas and all those lads that are there, right? And say, that's great. Love to see them in the Champions League. It'll be fantastic. Literally no point in seeing them in Italy, right? And when you mentioned
Italian, Zola is great. Zola was fucking deadly.
There we go.
Yeah, Zola was great. When you mention Italian players that were good in England, I always think of the fella that's played for Woking, and he beat West Brom at the Hawthorns in the 91.
Tim Bozzaglia, he was English.
Yeah, I know he was English, but he sounded Italian, and I always think, I just put his name forward.
Ignoring the Canio. The Canio was brilliant. The Canio was nothing. Deadly. Yeah, deadly to look at in the packages.
He was a great player. He was a great player, and he should have went to United when they gave him the chance to go there, and he didn't. He was loyal to West Ham.
Right?
Luca
Vialli, at the end of the day.
In fairness, Luca Vialli was good, but he was past his
peak. Is there all forgetting
Ravanelli had a deadly season.
Andrea Silenzi. You'll never beat Andrea Silenzi at Nottingham Forest.
Sheffield, was it Forest? Yeah.
Was it Nicola Berti? Was that Spurs?
Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday.
And he's at Spurs as well, wasn't he, Berti?
Maybe was it?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah. And then there was what was one of the Baggios at Blackburn? Dino Baggio?
No,
potentially, but he was about 90. No, it was Dino Baggio not at a season at Bolton with Sam Allardyce?
No,
Sam Allardyce.
Dino Baggio was running around for Jack Walker. I'm nearly sure. Dino Baggio.
So they're all digging deep to find maybe 3 names that work. So Zola works. Di Matteo I'll give you as well. He did well in England. And the Canio I'll give you a borderline pass. But like, again, playing for a nothing team, a mid-level team that's never gone to achieve anything. We're talking about fellas that come in as top end sons, right? And Celtic, it's nothing football, man. You may as well say he was great at St. Pat's, right? Like, it's not. It doesn't make a difference, right?
Alison says I'm right. Dino Baggio was at Blackburn.
There we go. So, but like, I'm talking about the vast majority of Italian players. I can think of all the ones. The Sena turned up at Liverpool. Aquilani. We spent £148 million on Aquilani between wages and loan fees and the transfer fee. And there you go. Don't forget Balotelli.
Yeah,
he's been shown under more buses now than, I don't know, a crash test dummy, right? And it's always the manager's fault. Barini, we had to kidnap Barini to sign him because Roma didn't want to let him go. Roma were breaking their bollocks laughing when we signed Barini. They're like, oh yeah, take him with that. We're heartbroken and the whole. Forget that. Taibi, listen, forget about it. Forget about it. Like all I'm saying to you is forget about it. Like you can, I think Italian players are fantastic, but Italian players in the Premier League, it's just about the air. Look at what happened to the Italians when they turned up on Wembley this week. They suddenly went from being the best team in the tournament to being dodgy, right? And if they have to go to Italy, if they have to play anyone in England, it's going to kill. It's going to kill them. That's their biggest weekness, is having to play in England in any round of this tournament.
What about the Sainer?
Stop it, will you? You're winding people up enough by being a top white tonight.
Great goal, Old Trafford.
You're like top white is even. I was even worried about, could we say top white in the podcast? Because honestly, right, I didn't know what happened there. Like God knows what the comments would be like.
Yeah, England playing white. That's it. There's nothing else to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Right. So moving on to the last topic, and it's very important. We sort of touched at the start of the week. Managers on the run.
They're on the run. I'm telling you.
Right. Somebody says Attilio Lombardo at Palace. Now I don't know if that's as a manager or as
seen him at Anfield. Good player.
Yeah, he was a good player. He was in the twilight of his career, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows with that head? He was bald from the age of 16, so it's like it could have been twilight or could be whatever it is. Right. I want to move along, and I want to ask you, Gav, managers on the run. Like this continuing saga of who's going to be the next Everton manager and who's going to be the next Tottenham manager.
It's insane.
Even Scott Parker, who I would have put €100 million on being the next Tottenham manager before, resigns, and I like my lips were being lit. Going, here we go, here it is. Here's the next Spurs manager.
Spurs written him off?
Yeah, no, he wrote Spurs off. He went to Bournemouth instead.
No way.
I don't believe that.
I swear on my kids' lives, he went. He walked out today of Fulham in London. I'm off to Bournemouth. It's the summertime. It's much warmer.
I think that was arranged. That was arranged weeks and weeks ago. He's never getting the sports job. Never.
So go on. Talk
anyway, yeah, I just can't get over this because like. Just we're going on about like players, and you know you see social media and people, and they're like, oh, what players are we getting? And you know, and it's the 28th of June or whatever it is, and people are like, we need players, and I'm kind of looking, relax. There's fucking fellas over here, they've no manager, and they can't get one. Like what's going on in sports is fucking hilarious, right?
Brilliant,
and people will say, you know, like. God love them. Nah, fuck that. God love nobody, right? Because if this was going on at Liverpool, they would have a field day on us, right? So they get rid of Mourinho and they put I don't even remember the fella's name who they put in charge. Ryan Mason. Put Ryan Mason in charge, which is great. And then it gets to the end of the season and they're like Conte, and Conte's like, you don't have enough money, go away. But they keep meeting Spurs. They keep going to meet Spurs, right? And then finding a way out of it. And then Spurs keep chasing them, right? Like the fella most on the run now is Nuno Espirito Santo, right? I would say he's in a travel lodge somewhere in the public communal jacks, shaving off his beard, right, and dyeing his hair so he can travel safely around Europe without being spotted by Everton or Spurs. You had Fonseca who turned up and went, lads, I get massive tax breaks in Italy. Like, are you going to change the law here in this country so I can still earn the same? And they went, no, well, I'm out of here. Right, he's gone. Rafa's at home with his big, huge red garage doors, and there's people putting fucking bed sheets outside saying, we know where you live, don't sign. And that's disgusting, by the way. And listen, I'm not tarring all Everton fans with the same brush, because that's a ridiculous thing to do. But
no, let's tar them for the crack.
No, I wouldn't tar them, because I'll tell you why. There's loads of good Everton fans out there. Right? No, there is. There's loads of genuine. There's loads of genuine Everton fans out there who don't want Rafa Benitez as the manager, and that's fine. They'll tell you why, and they have their reasons, and that's absolutely fine. But to do what went on there last night or the night before, whatever it is just fucking outrageous. Not only because, look, alright, he was a Liverpool manager, but like the fella's been offered a job. That's all that's happened here. He's been offered a job. But even like 2 weeks ago, it was like he's signing more talks, and then it took another week to have talks because they had to make sure, I don't know, the area around Goodison was secure before he could go in and have the talks. And that's all going on. And in the background, Nuno Espirito Santo was still tearing around England somewhere going, fucking hell, these cunts want
he's taking a job. They're not to tell us he's just taking a job in Fenerbahce.
He hasn't.
Yeah.
How did he get out of the country without them getting him?
Oh, he went out through Dover. He went on the Channel Tunnel.
Oh my God! There we go. Sam Tandy I'm delighted for him, because you know what? He was being linked to every fucking job, and he was Everton, he was Spurs, and I know it's only the 28th of June, right? But literally, players are going to be back mid-July. Like, we're talking 2 weeks' time now. Like, when this Euros ends, they'll get a couple of weeks off, but the majority of players will be back 1st of July probably. And Everton are walking around the place going, get someone else. They were talking themselves into Steven Gerrard. Spurs are now talking themselves into Steven Gerrard. It's all going on. And literally, I just can't believe how many managers are trying to run away from Everton and Spurs, and nobody has even realised that Palace haven't got a manager who, by the way, agreed a 3-year deal and then went, fucking Crystal Palace, I'm not having a bar of that, and he legged it. Do you know what I mean? So, like, they can't give jobs out, and they're all running around. They're all trying to get away from all these clubs, and we're just worrying about like who our next signing is. So I wanted to see what people thought of managers on the run. And I'm delighted for them. I'm delighted for Andy Cheese as he's cycled the Channel Tunnel at night to get out of England. But the thing is, I'm delighted for Nuno Espirito Santo that he has managed to get into witness protection in Istanbul. So I'm happy for him. But it's just fucking mad. Favre rejected Palace because I don't know why, but they just keep making up excuses and they just keep running, and then Everton just keep ringing them going, are you coming back? You know, like, it's like a fella that says, I'm just going to go out here and take a call for a minute, and he's gone 20 minutes, and you end up following him out going, you come back in for a point or what? No, on the phone he misses. It's mental. It's so good.
Laura Duffy touches on what was going through my head when you mentioned this. I said, should they not do like a Love Island type show with all the unemployed managers?
I said this to you earlier. I'm telling you.
Have Mo Sherry and Daniel Levy as the two contestants picking a manager.
I'm telling you, if you watch on Channel 4, go to Channel 4 app, right? And there's a program called Hunted. And what they do is they drop a dozen people, it could be in singles or pairs, out of the back of a van, a random place in England, and they have to leg it, right? They have to leg it, and you have to last so long. And if you last so long and then you get to the final place that you're told to go to without being captured, you win 100 grand. It's something like that. It's fucking brilliant. It's on Channel 4. Go and watch it. It's deadly. But I think they should do a football version. So the likes of Espirito Santo, Favre, Frank de Boer, all these managers that don't have a job, right? And Lampard, right? Throw them on the van, right? And drop them out in, say, I don't know, the middle of Aintree, somewhere like that, right? But the thing is, like, Mashiri and Levy are in a control centre, right? And they've all the coaches of the clubs out on the road in massive cars trying to chase them and if you capture them, they're your manager. But if they last a certain amount of time and get to the designated spot, they don't have to become manager. So that's the way I think it should be. Hunted, the LMA Hunted, they should call it, League Manager Association Hunted, where they're thrown out the back of a transit. And if you catch them, they're your manager. And if you don't, you have to leave them alone.
I go the opposite. What was the one that was on Netflix there last year when the lockdowns are going on, where you didn't get to see who you're chatting up behind the screen, right? All you got was a name and you had to talk to them, right? So it was like Blind Love or Blind Date or something. It was Married at First Sight. This is what it was, right? So basically, there was loads of them locked in this house, right? And they were all paired off and matched up. But they didn't know who they were pairing off and matched up with, right? And the first time to see each other, the bloke had to propose to the girl, or the girl had to propose to the bloke, right? So this is what you do, Gav. You get all the clubs to have their jobs, right? And you have all the managers lined up in the other room, and they all get to date each other, right? So you can't. That's what it is. And then Love is Blind. Thanks, Owen. This is what it is. Love is Blind, right? So, and basically, we can watch this on television and see what's going on, and then it's like Mo Sherry's there, and he's like, yes, Nuno, what is your name? Well, you can't use your real name, like, let's say Jose. Oh yeah, Jose. Oh, that's a great name. Blah blah blah. So they all have to chat each other up, and then they have to propose to them, and then it's up to the manager to accept or turn down the proposal. And if they turn it down, they can wait because one of the other teams could come along and propose to them at the same time, and you could have two people or two teams propose to the same person.
The issue you have there is that you have a manager making the decision what club they want to go to. They don't want to be at these clubs. They don't want to. No,
you're not allowed. You're not allowed out unless you accept one.
It'd be like Cilla Black doing Blind Date, right? And when she comes to, here's Graham with a quick reminder, Graham, literally to be managers throwing 50 quid notes at Graham saying, don't fucking remind them of anything about me because I don't want to be picked. I'm telling you, Hunted, LMA Hunted, it should be called. All of the managers, in a van, random place in England, and you do it on the premise of what you've seen on the
Chris
Channel
is
4
right.
show.
That's not Haunted. That is Treasure Hunt with Annika Rice in the 80s. If anyone my age remembers watching Annika Rice at 6 o'clock in the evening, wasn't it 6 o'clock in the evening? You just watched Annika Rice's backside running around after clues all over.
Yeah,
England.
she always seemed to be landing on the top of a hill, didn't she, in a helicopter?
Yeah, that's where you naturally start when you're chasing something. You find where's the nearest hill. Put me out there. Put me out there.
But you have to see this Hunted thing. This Hunted thing is like, listen, you're literally. It's. I'm telling you, if you do all that with the managers, it'd be brilliant. With Mashiri and Daniel Levy, and do you know what? Roy Hodgson in the control centre, he could be doing like, you know, we could give him some mad sort of bit of technology to use that he hasn't got a fucking clue how to use. It would be deadly to watch him try to use it. I'm telling you. I'm going to put this. I'm going to put this to that news channel. What is it?
I'm convinced FSG set up Mo Sheary as just as like a pretend boss, right?
But it's not his fault either. But it's not his fault now, because you know why? Because when anything goes wrong at Everton now, it's not this fella that's given us all the money and bought the Liver buildings. It's his friend Usmanov, because Usmanov is his friend, and because he's his friend, it's obviously Usmanov making all the decisions. It's fucking insane. And the other fella is there. What's his name? The fella, the director of football, that they all think is great, but he keeps signing all these shy players. What's his name?
Oh, he's getting the sack now. I know the one you're talking about.
Brandt. Yeah, he's there.
Marcel Brandt.
Yeah, he's there, right? And he's not signing any players because he's no manager to sign for. And it's his fault he's no manager. And Usmanov's making all the decisions. And Mashiri is just making sure that the blue light bulbs on the Liver buildings are working, and they're ever happy with that. That's exactly what's going on.
I think we get Christian Porzo to host this competition as well.
He could be the narrator.
Yeah.
He could be the narrator. It'd be a fucking brilliant show. And there's loads of managers out of work. You know, Sam Allardyce. Could be in it. He'll get caught real quick, because you don't get much of a head start. You only get you literally dropped out and they're on you. So he's not making it past Greg's.
Eddie Howe?
So Eddie Howe will definitely be found sleeping outside Celtic Park. So he'll be found quick enough. It'd be a brilliant show.
Has Eddie Howe not got a job yet?
No.
He must have got lost on the way to
he
Everton.
Celtic and told him that he wanted to spend money, and Dermot Desmond showed him the door. The usual, like what he did with Ivan Toney, kept him there for 48 hours apparently. And
this,
£8 million.
This is fantastic. How many jobs are going in the Premier League this year? So we've got Spurs, we've got Everton, we've got Crystal Palace. Fulham got relegated. Yeah,
Fulham got relegated. Yeah.
All right,
But anyway, we went off on a huge tangent there, but I feel it's a brilliant idea for the TV show, and it also represents exactly what's going on, because literally these clubs are ringing lads, interviewing them, making agreements, and then the lads are going, we need to tell them something here.
So we'd actually call this shunted, because the managers are actively trying to get away with this. But we want to shunt any interest they have in them from these poxy teams.
Well, Azim says it's been the biggest unkept secret that Wijnaldum was leaving, so I hope Liverpool have lined up a replacement pretty quick after the Euros. Renato in midfield and one of Coleman or Rafinha, and he feels we get the Premier League.
Am I allowed?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say my opinion, or do I have to be nice to the super chats because the money's gone?
You have to be nice.
No, I can say.
Without being,
I encourage you to go back into this and learn about Fool's Gold. It's a very interesting thing about pyrite. And
Rafinha is a good shout, though.
I don't know. I think on paper he's a good. I think on paper he's a good shout, but is he sufficiently good for us in reality? Who's he replacing? Who's he knocking out? Like when I look at Jota, he came in and he did the job. He took Firmino's spot, right? In my eyes, he took in that run up to Christmas until we're absolutely lambasted with injuries, right? He had taken over, and we made Firmino a rotational player in that front three, and that's exactly what you want, right? So anyway, look, Asim, go back and learn about Fool's Gold, and if you don't, I'd also encourage you to get the Stone Roses album. As much as that Ian Brown's gone mad and is an anti-vaxxer and flat earther and everything, that fantastic song is Fool's Gold. If you can't understand what Fool's Gold's all about, right, Gav, we're done. So with that, 100%. I want to thank everyone in the comments for staying involved, getting in. I know we're on late because of the match that went on. I want to go and say thanks to everyone. But before I go, Sienna Steps. We're into the last couple of days of this, right, in terms of raising the few money, as much money as possible over June. All that super chat there, that's going straight away to it. There's gear on the website, lfcdt.com. /shop. There's a whole range on there for Sienna Steps. Even if you never wear it, just go on and buy something, right? Just go on and buy something. If you haven't been able to do the event right or do anything with it, just go on and buy something. If it's a t-shirt, a cup, a mug, something, just put something, right? The money goes to a great cause.
We're trying to do it at different levels. So you know, you have to go funny where you can choose the level you want to. You can give €1 or you can give 100 or 2 or 1,000, whatever you want. And then we have the merchandise, which, like I said, it's all going to Sienna. And then we're bringing something in. We're hoping to bring someone in. It's just a bit hard with setting it up. But if we set it up, we'll be only literally asking every person to commit €1. And if we do this, it's a good idea. And if we pull it off, she'll go to America. Trust me. If we pull this off, she will go to America for €1 per person. So that's the different levels. You know, like you have someone that doesn't have it, and that euro will help. And then you'll have someone that can give €20 on a GoFundMe, and you'll have someone that can spend £100 on merchandise, whatever it might be. So that's what we're looking for with regards
to from Asim, as I'm wrapping up here, but I'm gonna. Not saying the wingers are replacing the current wingers. We have a model of bringing players who are good in tournament to stars. We need competition up top, just like City. Don't disagree with you there, Asim, but seriously, go back in the last 10 minutes, probably back to about 40 minutes, and we talked about Fool's Gold in terms of looking at players and how and when we should look at players, which will be probably fair in terms of what it is. But Asim, thank you for the super chats tonight. We do appreciate it, right? In terms of us there. This has been the forum. We've got another show on tomorrow night about the Euros. I've been actively prodding Keith to let me come on that show as well, because Sean and Chris are going to be on saying it's a wonderful tournament, and of course you have to have a bollocks come on as well. So there'll be more shows on during the week with Gav, of course. Pete will probably pop in at some stage. Ray's only allowed out to shed 1 day a week. The rest of the time it's his Mrs. Haven. As you can see, it's beautifully covered, soft pastel colours there to keep it nice and calm.
It will be. I'll tell you now, if England win this tournament, I will have the St. George's Cross on that wall behind me, right the way through to the first game of the new Liverpool season.
With is right la written down the right hand side of it.
There you go.
I'll get one of Andy's, Andy's mates who does the flags. I'll get him to do an English, not Scouse flag for me.
Formby crew across the side.
Oh my God! Right. Check Rayo on Twitter don't leave me alone.
That has been the forum. I've been your host, Phil Casey. Good evening, good night, God bless. See you next week. Tomorrow.